So hi again, this is Steven Gazal, and we're going to start our third video on viewing and manipulating files. And this video is going to be about compressing files and directories. So in this video, we're going to learn 4 commands to compress files and directories. First, the gzip command to compress a file, then the gunzip command to uncompress a file, then the zcat command to read the content of a compressed file, and finally the tar command to compress and uncompress directories. So what does compression mean? So compression is an action that changing your file to make it smaller in terms of storage space. And so it's really important, our field, to compress as many files as possible because genetic files are big and because storage space costs a lot of money. So when should you compress files or directory? So first, you should compress your large data files for which you don't need to modify the content. So when a file is compressed, you can read it, but you cannot edit it. You should also use compression to compress directories of previous projects to win storage space for projects that you're not investigating anymore. And finally, compressing is useful for sharing directories. So when you want to share the content of a whole directory with a collaborator, it's not useful to send all the files one by one, but what you can do is compress the content of the whole directory into one compressed file, and then it's easier to share this compressed file with your collaborator. So the first command you need to know to compress a file is the gzip command. And this command is going to compress your file into a file with exactly the same name followed by .gz. So in this example here, I'm going to copy a pet file into a file with a different name. These two files will be identical with exactly the same size. And what I'm going to do now is to gzip the file I've created. And then it's going to create me a gz file, which is way much more smaller than the ungzip file. So you have the gzip command to compress a file, and then the corresponding command to uncompress a file is the gunzip command. And so when you type gunzip followed by the name of a non-compressed file ending by .gz, it's gonna create a new uncompressed file with exactly the same name minus the .gz at the end of the file name. So as I said earlier, it's not because a file is compressed that you cannot read the content of the file. So if you want to read the content of a compressed file, you can use the zcat function. And when you type zcat followed by the name of a compressed file, this is going to output as the cat function the content of the compressed file. Okay, so now let's see how to compress and uncompress whole directories using the tar function. So the first thing you need to know is how to compress a whole directory, and you can do that using the tar function with the 4 different options Z, C, V, and F. So Z stands for filter the archive through gzip. C stands for create a new archive. V stands for verbosely list files processed. And F stands for use archive file. And so in this example here, we have a GWAS directory. The content of this directory is 106 megabytes. To compress the directory, I'm going to type tar my 4 options the name of the tar files I want to create and the name of the directory I want to compress. This is going to output all the files inside the directory I want to compress. And then it's going to create an archive that have this name. And so when we're looking at the size of this compressed file, we're going to see that this file is 20 megabytes, so nearly 5 times smaller than the uncompressed directory. Okay, so now let's finish this video by seeing how to compress and uncompress whole directories using the tar function. So the tar function is compressing directories to file that has two ends with .tar.gz. And so to compress a file, we first need to type tar, followed by the option -z, c, v, and f. And you can find the meaning of these 4 letters on the right, followed by the name of the compressed file you want to create, followed by the name of the directory you want to compress. So in this example here, we have a GWAS directory, which is about 106 megabytes. And then we're going to type, and then to compress this file, we're going to type tar -zcvf, the name of the compressed file we want to create. So here, gwas.tar.gz, followed by the name of the directory we want to compress, gwas. Then it's going to output all the files that's going to be compressed. And what we can see at the end is when we look at the size of this compressed file, is that its size is 20 megabytes. And so it's 5 times smaller than the uncompressed directory. Okay, so now let's finish by seeing how to extract the content of a compressed file with the extension .tar.gz. So to do that, you simply need to type tar with the 4 letters Z, X, V, and F, followed by the name of your compressed file. And so what you can see here in this example is when you type tar, ZXVF, followed by the name of your compressed file, it's going to output all the file that's going to be extracted. And it's going to create a new directory which has the name GWAS, and which was the directory that was compressed in the previous slide. So we're done with this third video, and now I'm going to meet you for the fourth and last video of this topic number 3.